Today, we're testing suspension, making a mess, moving some furniture, and making the most annoying noise in the world. All of which is part of the transformation of this bone stock and ugly S10 into a slightly less ugly all-wheel drive S10 build, which is inspired by the greatest factory sport truck of all time, the GMC Syclone.
Running the shop and a YouTube channel at the same time definitely takes up a ton of my time. And if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're just too busy to cook or prepare a meal, but you still want to eat well, you definitely want to check out the sponsor of today's video, Factor. They offer fresh, never frozen meals that'll be delivered directly to your door. And they're ready in only 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat them up and enjoy a quick and easy lunch or dinner. Plus, if you're in a rush or on the go and don't have time to warm up a meal, Factor also offers lunch on the go, which are meals like grain bowls and salad toppers which require no microwave at all. The best thing I enjoy about using Factor is it cuts down on trips to the gas station for that midday snack. Instead, since the meals are delivered straight to the shop, I just keep them in the fridge and never have to leave or wait on a food delivery driver, and I can choose from many different flavor combinations depending on my mood. I definitely notice an improvement in my day when I enjoy a freshly cooked meal rather than eating processed snacks. This fall, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered straight to your door that are ready in only 2 minutes with no prep and no dishes to do afterwards. To get started, head to factor75.com or click the link below this video and use code Lawrence50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. Once again, head to factor75.com or click the link below this video and use code Lawrence50 to get 50% off your first Factor box.
So I just got the edit done for this video that you're about to see, and I realized I hadn't filmed an introduction. So here's just a little bit of what you can expect this time. Basically, we're on the S10 project. We're just kind of getting the back end wrapped up. Last time we installed the ZR2 axle, which is wider and stronger. We put a sway bar in the back. So this time we're going to throw the bed on, get the brakes bled. We're going to finish up the exhaust because I chopped that off. We're going to work on the front. I'm going to attempt to put a Blazer sway bar on the front. That turns out a little bit interesting. Get our tires mounted up on the Corvette wheels. We're going to get the thing on the ground, see how it handles, see how it drives. So yeah, enjoy. One of these junkyard calipers started leaking, so I'm just going to swap it out for the one that originally came on the truck, and then we'll get the brakes bled. And yes, in the long run, the front and back brakes are going to get upgraded for more stopping power. All right, push down. Okay, up. Push down. Up. Down. Up.
think it almost might be time for new gloves. So this is really the moment of truth. We had the truck on the ground last time, but with no bed on it, we couldn't really see what the ride height is. Kind of nervous it might be too low. I doubt it, but like that's always in the back of your head. So let's put it on the ground and see what it looks like. All right, so it didn't lower the full 3 inches. Right now, the back is only about 3/4 of an inch lower than the front. Works out to, I think, like 2.5-ish. I didn't take a ton of measurements before, but I'm gonna lower the front just to match by adjusting the torsion bars, just to kind of make it look good for now. Alrighty, so I drove the truck home last night. Everything seemed to go pretty good. Just that little sway bar in the back, it's a 23 millimeter, but just adding that made a pretty big difference in just like body roll and normal cornering and stuff like that. This truck was like, it was kind of like a canoe in a lake if you ever been in one of those. That went pretty good. The only bad thing though is, if you hear that right there, the gear set whines pretty bad. It didn't do that before, so that's kind of a bummer. I was hoping my $300 junkyard axle with only 100,000 miles would be a little bit quieter than that, but if it annoys me enough or if it becomes a bigger problem, we'll re-gear it later on, or install some new gears, I should say. I probably won't re-gear. I like the 373 ratio, but yeah, anyway, so I've got my Corvette wheels and some temporary tires in the bed. We'll go get those mounted up just so I can kind of see what it looks like, because I like the stance now with this size tire, but my final size tire is probably going to be a little bit shorter. So let's get it mounted up and see what we think. So this one has me scratching my head just a little bit, because typically GM is like king of interchangeability. You can grab any part from any GM vehicle. As long as it's in the same family, it should bolt right up. But this is not the case. We have a donor sway bar from a 4-wheel drive, 4-door S10 Blazer, similar years this 4-wheel drive S10 truck. And the sway bar bolts right up to the frame, but for some weird reason, it won't attach to the control arm. So we figured it out. Luckily, when Nick went to the junkyard, he grabbed some pictures of everything. So we figured out what is different. I just don't know why. But basically here on the S10 truck control arm, that is the end link mounting position. And on the Blazer sway bar, that is where the end link lands. Obviously, it's not gonna line up 2 inches narrower per side. So we have the same issue over here. And the difference is the little tab on the control arm. On the S10 Blazer, it's in that 2 inches. So I think what my plan is, because I need to rebuild this front suspension anyway, I'm just gonna order some control arms for a 4-door, 4-wheel drive S10 Blazer, and hopefully they'll bolt right up. And hopefully there's no other changes like the ball joints, the bushings, or the torsion bar where it mounts into the control arm. So hopefully the rest of that is the same, and I can just bolt a Blazer control arm in this S10. But let me know down in the comments if you know better. Maybe you've tried this before, I don't know. But I really want to get that, 36 millimeter sway bar on here, because it's definitely going to be stiffer and it's definitely going to reduce body roll. But for now anyway, since I'm not ready to pull the trigger on my front end rebuild, I'm just going to put the stock sway bar back in. Luckily it all came out. My end links are still going to work, so I'll just swap it back in for now. But I'm gonna figure out one way or another how to get this sway bar in here. Worst case scenario, I can always do a little bit of welding and make a mount that will work. But if we can have a bolt-on solution just with some S10 Blazer control arms, that'll obviously be much simpler. And then we'll get new ball joints and new bushings kind of all in one shot. But Anyway, that's a problem for another day. Today, I want to get these wheels on. I want to get the truck on the ground and see how it looks. All right, 3, 2, 1. Nope.
It's because I didn't get the lever all the way.
Three, 2, 1.
It just fell right back down.
3, 2, 1. There we go.
Needed some lube.
All right, well, this is going to be a one shot.
Lots of lube.
Let's get a bunch on there. All right, 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
Lube is the key.
He said it, not me. Ah! Yeah. On the internet, they can do that in one shot. I'm not a tire professional. All right, 1, 2, 3. So apparently I'm gonna have to start making friends with people that drive like Miatas and other little sports cars with stretched tires, because this is a first for me. We're putting a 225 tire on a 9-inch wide wheel. We've got them all mounted up. So I guess the question is, why on earth am I doing that? Well, pretty simple actually. We have the wheels. These are from a C4 Corvette. A lot of people in the last video when I showed these off said they're from a Camaro. Certain Corvettes did have the 17x9s all the way around. I think it was a Grand Sport. I'll Google it because I'm not a Corvette guy, but the tire size that I targeted to run was a 275/40/17, which has a diameter of like 25.5 inches thereabouts. The stock tire that is on the truck has a diameter, I believe, of like 28 inches. And I want to have something obviously that handles a fairly low profile sidewall, and I want to just mock this thing up. That's basically all these tires are right now, is mock up. I don't want to go buy the final tire until I know exactly what it's going to be. The top three choices: 275/40 or a 275/50 or a 285/40. On they all differ in height ever so slightly. So I just want to have a benchmark to start with. These tires, they're pretty much 100% shot. We actually had a customer come in with a Subaru and they purchased a new set of tires, and instead of disposing of these immediately, we're just going to put them on here, maybe do a couple of burnouts, and then we'll get rid of them when I actually decide if this is close. So this particular tire, 225/55, it works out to be like 26.5, I think, inches tall. And so once I get it on the truck, I can decide if I like the ride height, if I want to go a little bit lower, if I can get a little bit wider rubber on there, or, you know, just kind of let me know what's what. And also, I'm dying to see these wheels on the truck because I think they look pretty dang cool. So the sway bar thing I wanted to mention real quick because I already test fit one of these. And I can turn all the way and the wheel won't rub, but it comes pretty darn close to the sway bar here. And when I put my big tires, whether it's a 275 or a 285, it might just barely rub this sway bar. But the good news is that, the Blazer sway bar that we'll put on there is so much narrower, it'll actually give us a ton more clearance for these wide wheels and tires. So it's like, if this all works out how I think it will with the Blazer lower control arms and the Blazer sway bar, this thing will handle great, have plenty of clearance, and I think the ride height might be like perfect. So basically all we got to do is get these on. Oh, one modification, if you get a four-wheel drive S10 that you're going to have to do is you can see the threads on the end of the CV axle. Well, they stick out a mile. So all we got to do is just chop those off because basically they would poke through the center cap right there. So we'll get those chopped off and then we'll put the wheels on and get this truck back on the ground. Guys, I am really pumped because I think it's going to look awesome. You ever get done with a project and realize it's not quite what you thought you were going to get when it was done? Well, that's kind of the case that we have here. I'm not totally unhappy. I'm just not like 100% satisfied. And I realized that's because GM cheated. You know, here's what I mean by that. When they made the Syclone, it had a, I think, 245/50/16 tire, which, whatever the size was, I remember it worked out to be 25.7 inches tall, which is exactly the same height as the 275/40/17 that I initially planned on running, which is a tiny bit shorter than that. And as you can see, it's not awful, but there's definitely a little bit more wheel gap on this thing than it probably needs. I'd like that fender opening to be a little bit closer to the tire. Now, the million-dollar question is, how did GM cheat? Well, I went down the rabbit hole on this last night. I spent a couple hours just researching different things, and it turns out the body kit that they put on the Syclone, I didn't realize this beforehand, but the body kit they put on the Syclone actually stuck down probably, just based on the pictures, about an inch or two lower than the actual opening of the metal fender. So that's what made the Syclone sit lower. And of course it had the body kit that kind of went along the side. So the Syclone looked like it sat a lot lower, even though the suspension, it might have been lowered a little bit, but the suspension isn't all that contributed to the low look of the Syclone, because those look awesome. So I got a couple different ways that I could kind of quote unquote fix this and make it look just a little bit nicer. I don't want to lower the suspension a whole lot more. Possibly I can go an inch to where I'm comfortable with how high the frame is off the ground and the CV angles and the drive shaft angle and all that stuff. So maybe an inch lower. I could do a taller tire to fill out the wheel well, which I don't want to do. I think this here settles it for me. I want to run the 285/40/17, so it'll have a nice wide sticky tire and be, actually won't be taller than this one. It'll be on paper about half an inch shorter, so not a big deal. But I think what I'm going to do, in fact, I'm pretty sure what I'm going to do because I already have some parts in the way thanks to a subscriber. I'm going to run some, if not all, of a S10 Extreme body kit. And here's kind of what I mean by that. I found out after, again, a bunch more research, the S10 Extreme has a flare. It doesn't even look like it, but it actually has a flare that goes over the fender that does something similar to the Syclone. It takes up not as much space, but I think just, again, based on the pictures, it looks like the Extreme flares come down about 1/2 of an inch, which will give the truck the appearance of sitting a little bit lower. So I actually have all 4 flares on the way. The body kit and the bumper, that's one thing I'm unsure of, because when they did the body kit or cladding or whatever you want to call it on the Syclone, it was kind of like it looked really well integrated. Like it was one piece that kind of, I think it went up on the door, it came down below the rockers, and it's all molded together and looked really awesome. Same thing with like the Silverado SS. When they did the side cladding on those, it looked like it belonged and you could hardly even tell. Now, the extremes. I've always been like hit or miss. There's always been something that looks a little bit off to me on the S10 Extremes, and it kind of clicked to me last night when I was doing all this research. Why? And that's because the body kit kind of looks like an aftermarket or an afterthought installation, because instead of going up the door, it's just a little piece that sticks on below the rocker, has a little piece that sticks on below the bed here, and a little piece that sticks on the back. And the bumper, it looks as if it has the same like metal bumper, but the lower fairing sticks down a little bit more, and then it kind of comes up the side and blends into the flare. So for now anyway, I'm just gonna run the flares and see how that looks, because I'm not totally sold on the whole body kit thing. Like I said, to me it just kind of looks like an afterthought, but depending on how it looks with just the flares, I might decide to go with an extreme body kit if I can find one, because I've been on the groups on Facebook and stuff. They're out there, but they're expensive and they're hard to come by a complete one in good shape. So let me put this out here to the group. If you guys have or know where one might be, I don't want to buy a whole truck. I just want the extended cab fleet side body kit from an S10 Extreme, which I think they're like 98 to 03, 04, somewhere in that ballpark. Not totally positive on the years, but yeah, let me know. Otherwise, as far as the truck looks right now, it's actually not bad. Like yeah, the tires are a little bit small, but I kind of like the stance. So I'm really excited now to get the control arms, get the better sway bar in there, get the front end tightened up, because I drove this thing last night and it is like all over the place. And on the rear end, I did try a little bit of a burnout last night, but this thing wheel hops bad. So I definitely need to address that before we get too far down the high horsepower build. Realistically, with all-wheel drive, it might not do it so much because we won't be spinning our wheels, we'll be accelerating, so there's that. But like I said, long-term, it's gonna get 4-linked out back, so it won't be like again, this phase of the project is kind of temporary. My main goal is to get the chassis at a height where I like it, and that way when it comes time to build the 4-link, I'll be able to just design it exactly where I want it and not have to be guessing on the height. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling at this point, but we have the truck sitting on his wheels. I like the size of tires. Obviously, these are much too narrow. We'll have a similar diameter, but a much wider tire. And I like the makeover we did, get rid of that ugly chrome aftermarket grille, and this little bit's going on 6 minutes, so I'll start shutting up now. Thank you guys for watching. Come back soon. Of course, we have a lot more parts for the S10. I think one of the next things to do is the front suspension and all-wheel drive, so we'll get that converted over. Check back soon, though. Thanks for watching.